Okay. So last week, a judge in California ruled that state's AR ban was unconstitutional.
That's amazing.
I think that's a bright spot right
It's
there.
a bright spot.
This was...
and not because we're in favor of folks being able to shoot up, obviously, other people.
No.
Because from the left, first of all, what is an assault rifle?
That's a great question.
I mean,
and part of what we were kind of talking about.
How's that any different than an assault hammer?
Well, and the judge...
600 people are killed every year in the United States by hammers.
That's
an assault hammer.
You're going to love this topic once we get to it. Judge Roger T. Benitez, he was appointed by George W. Bush in 2001. He was ruling on California's Assault Weapons Control Act from 1989. The banned, quote, assault weapons are not bazookas, howitzers, or machine guns. Those arms are dangerous and solely useful for military purposes. Instead, the firearms deemed, quote, assault weapons are fairly ordinary, popular, modern rifles. This is an average case about average guns used in average ways for average purposes. He also says killing by knife attack is far more common than murder by any kind of rifle. In California, murder by knife occurs 7 times more often than murder by rifle. For example, according to FBI statistics for 2019, California saw 252 people murdered with a knife, while 34 people were killed with some type of rifle.
That's because targeting assault rifles, that's not the point.
No.
The point is the fact that they can confiscate any firearm under the guise that this particular firearm
is dangerous.
Is especially dangerous means that once they can do that, then it won't be very long until they start categorizing other types of firearms as quote-unquote assault whatever.
The judge also ruled, quote, the assault weapon epithet is a bit of a misnomer. These prohibited guns, like all guns, are dangerous weapons. However, these prohibited guns, like all guns, can be used for ill or good. They could just as well be called home defense rifles or anti-crime rifles. This whole point about assault weapons, he's like, the people that are proposing this, they would call sports cars assault cars.
But see, that's the left. They name everything the exact opposite of what it actually is.
Right. And that's really a whole bunch of what he was getting at. And I just thought that this was full of just really good stuff. He also said that the defendants in the case, the state of California, quote, view recently expressed by a police chief in Oakland, California. We do not want victims to arm themselves. We want them to be good witnesses. Of course, a dead victim is a lousy witness.
A lot of folks lost their confidence in the judiciary over the November 2020 elections.
Right.
They said, in court case after court case,
even all the way up to the Supreme Court,
they didn't have the courage to address the issue head on. Now, there's a lot of folks out there that say, no, Trump lost every... That's not entirely true.
He didn't lose every court case. No,
Many
a lot of them,
them
they just didn't bother to hear it.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, for those folks who are ready to give up on the judiciary, I say, no. I mean, we're a nation of laws.
And they're the ones supposed to be interpreting these laws.
And there's a couple of decisions from the Supreme Court here recently that surprised me that they took the position that they did.
And in the reading
in a good way.
In the reading of this case, I thought there were some really good points here. The well-regulated militia argument. The left will say that only people who are in military service should have a right to bear arms, right? That the argument was shot down in the Supreme Court case, District of Columbia versus Heller in 2008. That's one of the most important Supreme Court decisions in years. They're like, this is only for a well-regulated militia. This isn't for real people, right? That's what the left says.
Right.
But it also turns it on the head, the argument that people should not be allowed to have weapons of war. See, he talked about that in this case. How can you have a well-regulated militia that's ready to defend the republic in times of war
if you don't have weapons of war
that the public's allowed to have and be trained in and be well-regulated in?
Like, where do you store them in the meantime?
So you're saying that people shouldn't have weapons of war? Yes, we should have weapons of war. Not saying that the AR-15 is a weapon of war. The M16 is. The AR-15 is not an M16. But if you tell me that people shouldn't have weapons of war because that's not what the Constitution had in mind, that's exactly what the Constitution had in mind.
357? a 38. They're all weapons of war.
And you know what? As he points out in this case, more people are killed with their bare hands in California than with a rifle.